Hello, friends. Welcome to Epic Stories, the ultimate destination for lovers of high-end experiences, opulent lifestyles, and untold tales of extravagance. Your support means the world to us. Please hit that subscription button and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our stories. Don't forget to like and share with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. Elena Harper had always been a generous soul. Born into an influential family in the fictional African coastal city of Starlight Bay, she inherited both a vast fortune and a deep sense of responsibility to help those in need. Her parents had built a massive business empire centered on real estate, shipping, and a chain of luxury hotels. After they passed away in a tragic plane crash, Elena decided to carry on their legacy by supporting underprivileged communities and preserving the region's natural beauty. One sweltering afternoon, Elena hosted a grand fundraiser at her primary estate. Towering palm trees lined the circular driveway, and the main entrance was adorned with flowers. She had invited wealthy businessmen, local politicians, and socialites to encourage generous donations to her charitable foundation. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, while a small band played cheerful tunes. Amid the crowd of elegantly dressed guests, a man named Victor Bennett stood out. He wore a sleek white suit that complemented his well-groomed appearance. With a confident smile and smooth-talking charm, Victor mingled effortlessly among the city's elite. Nobody suspected he came from a rough background, far removed from this world of wealth and comfort. He harbored a simmering resentment against those born into fortune. Elena noticed Victor when he approached her near a large floral centerpiece. He introduced himself in a polished manner. "Good evening, Ms. Harper," Victor said. "I must say, your event is breathtaking. Your charitable work is truly inspiring." "Thank you," Elena smiled. "It means the world to me that people show their support. Our community has so many needs, and I want to do my part." Elena found his voice gentle and his gaze unwavering. She felt momentarily disarmed by his confidence, interpreting it as sincerity. They chatted for a few minutes about her foundation's mission, during which Victor asked questions that showed keen interest in her business and philanthropic goals. "I've recently invested in clean energy solutions," Victor said. "Perhaps we can collaborate someday to bring green infrastructure to the city." "That sounds wonderful," Elena replied enthusiastically. "I've always wanted to integrate more sustainable methods into our shipping operations." As the night progressed, Elena found herself gravitating toward Victor. He seemed to understand her dedication to the environment and charitable causes. By the end of the fundraiser, they were exchanging phone numbers. She promised to follow up regarding potential partnerships for community projects. When the event concluded, Elena retreated to her private lounge to take off her heels and rest. She caught herself smiling at the thought of Victor's friendly eyes and the warmth in his tone. With the chaos of running her empire, she rarely had time for personal connection. She had always been cautious about men who pursued her, suspecting their interest in her fortune. Yet Victor felt different, genuine, curious, almost supportive of her dreams. Outside, Victor rode away in a rented luxury car, glancing once in the rearview mirror at the grand mansion. A satisfied smirk tugged at his lips. He had secured a reason to be in Elena's world. In the weeks that followed, Elena and Victor grew closer. They spent afternoons discussing business strategies and philanthropic goals. Sometimes they dined at the finest seaside restaurants, sampling fresh seafood while overlooking shimmering waves. Other times, they strolled through the bustling markets of Starlight Bay, buying local crafts and handing out donations to street vendors in need. Despite Victor's outward kindness, there was a hidden side Elena could not see. Born in one of the poorer suburbs on the city's outskirts, Victor had endured a childhood marred by financial struggle. His father had passed away early, and his mother, struggling to support the family, worked menial jobs. The resentment he felt over his impoverished background transformed into firm determination he would never be powerless again. This ambition led Victor to try different business ventures. He met influential people, made deals, and learned how to charm investors. Yet his money was always tied up in risky projects, leaving him short on liquidity. When he attended Elena's charity event, he did so with a plan: target a wealthy figure, win her trust, and acquire the resources he felt he deserved. One evening, Victor visited Elena's estate to discuss her foundation's upcoming scholarship program for underprivileged students. Dressed in casual attire, she welcomed him into her study, lined with books about finance, global politics, and environmental science. A large window offered an unobstructed view of the ocean, glimmering under the moonlight. Please come in, Elena gestured to a seat. Can I get you something to drink? Just some water would be great, thank you. Victor smiled politely. She poured him a glass and took a seat across from him at a polished mahogany table, a pair of reading glasses perched on her nose, heightening her air of intelligence. So, about the scholarship program, Elena said. I want to offer full tuition, including living allowances, to at least 20 students. It might cost a considerable amount, but I think it will change lives. It's a wonderful idea, Victor replied. Perhaps I can contribute some funding as well, or at least help you manage the budget and public relations. Elena beamed, touched that he wanted to be involved. She had grown to appreciate his willingness to participate in her charitable endeavors. But as Victor listened, his mind drifted to darker thoughts. He could see how easily Elena trusted him and how openly she spoke about her wealth. He imagined what it would be like if everything she possessed became his. A single, resentful ambition took root in his heart to possess not just her love, but her entire empire. He was patient, though. He spent the evening praising her plans, subtly learning more about her finances, and reinforcing the image of a dedicated partner. The conversation ended on a high note, and Elena felt she had found someone who understood her mission. Later that night, while Elena slept soundly in her grand bedroom, Victor returned to his modest apartment. The contrast between her opulence and his humble living situation spurred his envy. Standing alone in front of a mirror in a dimly lit room, he murmured to himself, I'll take her entire world, one step at a time. In the months that followed, Victor cultivated a relationship that appeared, on the surface, filled with love and support. He proposed to Elena in a grand, romantic gesture on a cliff overlooking the sea at sunset, presenting her with a diamond ring. Overwhelmed with emotion, Elena said yes. She believed they shared a vision, a life filled with passion, generosity, and dedication to social causes. Their wedding was a city-wide spectacle. The ceremony took place in an elegant cathedral adorned with white flowers, while hundreds of guests, including local politicians and wealthy industrialists, looked on. Traditional African drumming combined with Western classical violin music to highlight the fusion of cultures in Starlight Bay. Elena wore an exquisite gown with intricate lace detail, and Victor looked dashing in a tailored black tuxedo. Do you, Victor Bennett, take Elena Harper to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and to cherish, in times of wealth and times of want, until death do you part? The priest asked. I do, Victor said with practiced conviction. And do you, Elena Harper, take Victor Bennett to be your lawfully wedded husband, to support and respect through life's challenges and joys, until death do you part? I do, Elena replied. People clapped, tears were shed, and cameras flashed. Outside, a large reception area had been set up under a canopy of blossoming jacaranda trees. Musicians played lively tunes, and well-dressed servers floated among the guests, offering champagne and gourmet delicacies. Yet, amid the celebration, a few of Elena's closest confidants felt unease. Her trusted lawyer, Thomas Reed, a man with a calm demeanor, had doubts about Victor's sudden appearance in Elena's life. He approached her in a quiet corner during the reception. I know this might not be the best time, Thomas said in a low voice, but have you thought about drafting a prenuptial agreement or reviewing your financial holdings? Victor and I trust each other, Elena smiled politely. I appreciate your concern, Thomas, but I believe in honesty and openness. Just be careful, Thomas said reluctantly. If you ever need anything, please remember I'm here. Elena nodded, her attention soon drawn by other well-wishers. Meanwhile, Victor noticed Thomas's protective stance and made a mental note to keep the lawyer at bay. Within days, Victor persuaded Elena to sign business expansion documents that gave him significant oversight of her assets under the pretense of helping her manage her empire. To Elena, it was a show of unity. She thought they were building a life together. For Victor, it was the next step in a carefully orchestrated plan. Not long after settling into married life, Victor grew impatient. He wanted total control of Elena's wealth without restrictions or legal obstacles. He began dropping hints about taking a private trip together, a romantic journey to strengthen their bond. Elena, ever the romantic, happily agreed. Victor arranged for a private boat to take them to a quieter expanse of sea, far from the bustle of Starlight Bay. It was a pristine day, the sky was bright blue, and seagulls circled overhead. Elena arrived at the dock wearing a light dress, a wide sun hat, and sandals. She was excited, thinking Victor had planned a day of snorkeling or a surprise picnic in a hidden cove. The boat was sleek and modern, equipped with luxurious seating and a small dining area. Victor steered them away from the harbor, guiding the craft through calm waters until skyscrapers and busy docks faded into the distance. Once they reached open water, he reduced the speed, letting the gentle waves sway the boat. Elena stood at the railing, looking at the endless horizon. "It's so peaceful out here," Elena smiled. "I'm glad you thought of this. We both needed a break from meetings and business deals." "Yes," Victor forced a smile. "I wanted to have you all to myself, without any distractions." He glanced at the far-off shoreline. Hardly any other vessels were in sight. This was exactly what he had planned, a secluded area where no one would witness his final act. Taking a deep breath, he walked toward Elena with a somber expression. "I think we might be having engine trouble," Victor said. "Could you check the fuel gauge? It's over there by the side of the engine panel." "Is everything okay?" Elena asked, concerned. "We can call for help if needed. Just a quick look, please," Victor replied. Trusting him, Elena leaned over the small console near the rear of the boat to check the gauge. At that instant, Victor summoned all his nerve. Without another word, he violently pushed her over the side of the boat. A scream escaped her lips before she hit the water, swallowed by a sudden splash. Stunned by the betrayal, Elena flailed in the ocean, gasping in shock as the salty water stung her eyes. She tried calling out, "Victor, help!" But her words were drowned out by the boat's engine roaring to life. In moments, the sleek vessel sped off, leaving her alone in the vast sea, struggling to stay afloat. Elena fought panic. The sun blazed above, and her arms began to tire. Every wave threatened to pull her under. In the distance, she could see the shape of Victor's boat shrinking until it became a speck. As fear gripped her chest, she prayed for a miracle. That miracle arrived in the form of Samuel Fisher, a humble fisherman out on his old, rickety boat. From afar, Samuel had seen a flash of movement, a person falling overboard. Alarmed, he steered his fishing boat as fast as possible toward the spot. At first, Elena had no idea anyone was coming to her rescue. The waves buffeted her and her energy waned. But then she heard the chugging of a small boat's engine and turned to see Samuel reaching out his arm. "Don't worry, I've got you," Samuel grunted as he pulled her aboard. "Take it easy." Collapsing onto the deck, Elena coughed up salt water and breathed in shaky gulps of air. She was soaked and trembling. Samuel grabbed a threadbare blanket from a storage box and draped it over her shoulders. "Thank you," Elena said, barely audible. "Thank you." "You're lucky I saw you," Samuel said. "Where's the person who came with you?" Elena's eyes welled with tears. She couldn't bring herself to say the name of the man she had once loved. All she could do was gesture helplessly at the empty horizon. Sensing her shock, Samuel decided to focus on keeping her warm and safe. He handed her a bottle of water to rinse her mouth. The fishing boat's old engine coughed and sputtered, but Samuel guided it toward the nearest strip of land, an isolated beach miles from Starlight Bay. With his help, Elena made it onto the shore. She lay on the sand, staring at the sky. Victor had tried to kill her. Her mind struggled to process the magnitude of this betrayal. Over the next hour, Samuel prepared a small fire to help her dry off. He brewed simple tea with supplies he kept on his boat. Once Elena's trembling subsided, he asked gently, "I don't want to pry, but do you have someone who can come get you? Family, friends?" "Yes," Elena's voice shook. "I need to contact my lawyer, Thomas Reed. He'll know what to do. But please, Samuel, I beg you keep my survival a secret for now." Samuel scratched his beard, confused yet sympathetic. He could see the urgency in her eyes and nodded. "Okay, if that's what you want. Let's make sure you're safe first, then we can figure everything out." Elena's gaze hardened as she stared into the flickering flames. She would not remain a victim. She would return to Starlight Bay and claim what was rightfully hers. But for now, she needed to stay hidden. She needed to heal. She needed a plan. For several days, Samuel sheltered Elena in a small shack near a quiet fishing cove. He had a network of fellow fishermen who barely knew about the city's high society gossip, making it easier for Elena to keep a low profile. She used a basic radio and an outdated cell phone Samuel sometimes carried to reach out discreetly to Thomas Reed. Anger and humiliation coursed through her veins. She had trusted Victor, loved him wholeheartedly, and even shared control of her family's empire with him. Now he had tried to murder her to steal that fortune. She also felt guilty for not listening to the doubts whispered by her trusted friends and employees. One late afternoon, while Samuel was repairing fishing nets, Elena sat with the makeshift phone in her hands, speaking quietly with Thomas. My God, Elena, are you sure you're all right? Thomas asked, surprised and emotional. The entire city thinks you disappeared at sea. Victor's told everyone you're missing. I'm alive, Elena said, but I need your help. He pushed me off a boat and left me to die. Please, don't tell anyone you've heard from me yet. Of course, Thomas replied. Just tell me what you need. I need evidence, Elena said, proof that he's been transferring my assets. I suspect he's lying to the public to gain full control. Can you gather all the paperwork he's filed? Any unusual transactions? Any property he's sold or tried to sell? I'm on it, Thomas said. And Elena, I'm so sorry I didn't push harder to protect you. It's not your fault, Elena replied. We'll make this right. After the call, Elena stared at the ocean, fists clenched. She was not the same trusting woman she had been before. She could almost feel her heart hardening, fueled by betrayal. If Victor thought he had gotten away with murder, he was sorely mistaken. Samuel approached, carrying a metal box of tools. He had overheard fragments of her conversation but kept a respectful distance. I suppose you really are someone important in that big city, huh? I am, Elena said. Or I was. It's a long story. If you need me to help in any way, just let me know, Samuel said softly. I may not have much, but I'm decent with a boat, and I don't like seeing good people get hurt. A wave of gratitude washed over her. She had met this kind fisherman under the worst circumstances, yet he had shown her genuine kindness, a stark contrast to the poisonous love Victor had offered. Thank you, Samuel, Elena said. I will never forget what you've done. When this is over, I promise to repay your kindness. Samuel waved a hand, as though he needed no reward. He was a man who believed in helping first and asking questions later. Meanwhile, back in Starlight Bay, Victor was living the high life in Elena's absence. He announced that his beloved wife had gone missing during a tragic outing at sea. He played the role of a grieving husband in public, but behind closed doors, he reveled in his newfound power. He moved quickly to sell off smaller real estate holdings, pocketing large sums. He cut funding to several of Elena's charitable projects, explaining to the public that the family empire was in mourning and needed to pause certain commitments. The lavish mansion that once buzzed with philanthropic gatherings now hosted extravagant parties featuring the city's elite. Luxury cars lined the driveway, and champagne flowed freely. To my dear wife, Elena, who is presumably lost at sea, Victor said, raising a glass at a party, let us all hope for a miracle. A chorus of toasts followed, though some guests shifted uncomfortably at the morbid display. In truth, many suspected Victor was exploiting Elena's absence to enrich himself, but no one dared confront him directly. He had lawyers, armed security, and a well-crafted sob story on his side. One evening, Victor invited a group of foreign investors to the mansion to discuss potential partnerships. While giving them a tour of the estate, he claimed full control of the business empire. He bragged about the shipping lines, boasted of strategic partnerships with local politicians, and hinted he might expand into luxury resorts up the coast. This place is so full of history, one investor said. Does your wife's family still have influence? I'm afraid she's no longer with us, Victor replied. As her legal spouse, I carry out her wishes. We had planned many expansions, and I intend to fulfill them in her memory. He delivered the line with solemn drama, though inside he felt only triumph. After the deal discussions, Victor walked through the empty corridors, swirling a glass of whiskey. He paused outside Elena's old office, glancing at the family portrait on the wall. A ghost of a smirk formed on his lips. You should have seen it coming, Elena, Victor muttered. Now everything is mine. But what Victor did not know was that rumors were spreading through the city. Some staff members whispered about small signs, documents half completed, personal items missing from the estate. They questioned if Elena was truly lost or if something more sinister was at play. These whispers grew, fueled by subtle hints that Elena might be alive. Elena decided the time had come to return to Starlight Bay. Armed with evidence, Thomas had discreetly sent records of fraudulent transactions and suspicious bank transfers. She was ready to reclaim her life. She had physically recovered, thanks to Samuel's care, but her spirit bore the scars of betrayal. Samuel insisted on accompanying her to the city's outskirts. He steered his battered pickup truck down dusty roads, avoiding main highways to keep a low profile. The sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink. This is as far as I go, Samuel said, pulling over. If you need me again, you know how to reach me. Thank you for everything, Elena said gratefully. I promise I'll stay in touch. I owe you more than words can express. She slipped out of the truck and found herself near a discreet entrance to one of her father's old warehouses, a location Victor would have overlooked. Wearing a simple hooded jacket and sunglasses, she made her way inside, where Clara Wells, a longtime friend, waited with a nervous smile. Clara was one of the few people Elena trusted with her secret. "Elena, thank heaven you're alive," Clara said. "I've been so worried." "I'm alive," Elena said, embracing her, "but we have a lot of work to do." Working together, Clara and Thomas set up a temporary base of operations. The warehouse was dusty, filled with old shipping crates and broken furniture. Thomas soon arrived with a laptop and a stack of folders detailing Victor's transactions. "Everything is here," Thomas said. "He's moved millions out of your accounts into offshore banks. He sold property at suspiciously low prices, likely laundering money." "He must be stopped," Elena said, "but we need a strategic approach. If I come out accusing him without concrete proof or the right timing, he could manipulate the story." They decided on a plan. Elena would remain hidden for a bit longer, collecting more damning evidence and forging alliances with influential figures who once supported her family. At the same time, Thomas and Clara would quietly alert officials and the media about irregularities. A dramatic public reveal needed to happen where Victor couldn't deny or cover up his crimes. Though Elena's anger burned, she forced herself to remain calm. She wanted to see Victor's downfall, but she knew revenge was best served through undeniable truth. The city had to witness it beyond any doubt. Starlight Bay buzzed with excitement over a grand charity gala Victor had organized under Elena's charitable foundation's name. He intended to spotlight himself as the benevolent figure sustaining her philanthropic legacy. The gala was set in the city's largest event hall, decorated with glittering lights, African motifs, and fresh flowers imported from abroad. Security was tight, with Victor's personal guards stationed everywhere. Dressed in an expensive suit, he greeted guests as they arrived. The press milled about, taking photos and asking for sound bites. "Mr. Bennett, any updates on the search for your missing wife?" a reporter asked. "Sadly, no," Victor said, putting on a solemn face. "The authorities believe she's lost to the sea. But tonight, we remember her passion for charity. I'll be donating a large sum in her honor." The gala included an auction, musical performances, and a grand stage for speeches. As the evening wore on, Victor took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight," Victor said. This foundation meant everything to Elena. "I stand before you, determined to keep her dream alive." Before he could launch into his rehearsed speech, murmurs spread through the crowd. People turned toward the back of the hall. Emerging from the dimly lit entrance was Elena, dressed simply yet strikingly, her posture and gaze radiating confidence. Victor's eyes widened in horror, his face turning ashen. He froze mid-sentence. A hush fell over the crowd. From the stage, Victor forced a tight, unconvincing smile. "Elena, you're alive." "Yes, I'm alive," Elena said. "Sorry to interrupt, but I believe there's some business we need to address." Reporters rushed to capture the moment. Cameras flashed and gasps echoed through the hall. Security guards hesitated, unsure of what to do. Elena pulled out a stack of documents, her eyes never leaving Victor. "For weeks, I've watched you claim my property, sell my assets, and spread the lie that I was missing," Elena said. "You even canceled charitable projects I was personally funding. I have evidence that you tried to murder me at sea." The overhead screens flickered to show images of suspicious bank transfers and recorded phone logs obtained by Thomas. Each piece was labeled with dates, amounts, and Victor's forged signatures. The crowd murmured more urgently. Victor tried to regain composure. "This must be a misunderstanding," Victor said. "Elena, I was worried about you. People here can attest to my concern." "You can stop pretending," Elena said. "I have a witness. The fisherman who saved me has already given his account to the authorities. You pushed me off that boat. You left me to drown. Then you proceeded to loot what took generations of my family to build." With impeccable timing, Samuel stepped forward from the edge of the crowd. He wore plain clothes, but stood tall. "I saw him," Samuel said. "I rescued her. She would have died if I hadn't pulled her out of the water." Journalists bombarded Victor with questions. The live feed broadcast his panicked face to millions across the region. "Mr. Bennett, how do you respond to these allegations?" a reporter asked. "Is it true you tried to kill your wife for her fortune?" Victor lost his composure. He shouted at his guards, who were now unsure whether to protect him or heed the demands of law enforcement officials present. Panic spread. A group of police officers, accompanied by Thomas and other legal authorities, stepped in with arrest warrants. They moved quickly toward Victor. "Victor Bennett, you are under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and embezzlement," an officer said. "Put your hands behind your back." Victor tried to run, but a guard wrestled him to the ground. Cameras captured every second. The once proud figure was now cuffed before the people he had tried to woo. A wave of shock and anger rippled through the guests. Some hissed in disapproval, while others stood in stunned silence. Elena remained on the stage, documents in hand, heart pounding. She felt rage, relief, and something unexpected closure. The entire city saw Victor's true nature. There was no room left for him to manipulate the narrative. Victor's trial became the biggest story in Starlight Bay. The media dissected every part of the scandal. Analysts reviewed how he forged documents, siphoned funds, and posed as a mourning husband. Samuel took the stand, describing how he saw Victor's boat speeding away after pushing Elena overboard. Thomas testified, presenting hard evidence of financial crimes. Elena sat through it all, wearing a calm exterior despite reliving the trauma. Each time Victor glared at her from the defendant's table, she refused to look away. In the end, the court found him guilty on multiple counts. He was sentenced to a lengthy prison term with little hope of early release. After the sentencing, Elena felt an immense burden lift from her shoulders. For the first time since that day at sea, she could breathe freely. She returned to her estate, which needed extensive reorganization. The staff who remained loyal welcomed her with tears and applause. She vowed to rebuild her foundation with renewed vigor. Stepping into the office Victor had once occupied, she felt a pang of sadness. The walls reminded her of betrayal and violence, but she resolved to turn her pain into a lesson. Her first act was to reestablish funding for all halted charitable projects. She penned personal letters of apology to the students whose scholarships were disrupted. Her next step was to establish a new initiative aimed at helping vulnerable individuals navigate legal battles, especially in cases of domestic abuse and financial exploitation. She dedicated this to her late parents, who had always championed helping the less fortunate. With Thomas and Clara's help, she set up legal clinics in poorer parts of Starlight Bay, ensuring no one else would be as vulnerable as she had been. In a symbolic move, Elena invited Samuel to her home. She greeted him in the estate's sunlit garden, where colorful flowers bloomed against a sparkling fountain. She offered him a part-time position overseeing a fishing outreach project she wanted to fund, aimed at helping local fishermen upgrade their equipment and improve their livelihoods. "It's not enough to repay you," Elena said, smiling warmly, "but I'd be honored if you'd work with me." "You saved my life, Samuel. I'd be glad to help," Samuel said with a sheepish grin. "Really, it's too generous. I only did what anyone decent would do." "Sometimes what seems simple is the greatest gift of all," Elena said. He nodded, and they shared a quiet moment of understanding. Elena realized how tragedy had led her to discover new friendships and renewed purpose. Starlight Bay buzzed with news of Victor's incarceration. People who once attended his glamorous parties now spoke of him in hushed, disapproving tones. Elena chose not to revel in the city's judgment of him. She had faced death and loss, but emerged with her integrity and compassion intact. She called a press conference to address the public. Dressed in a simple but elegant suit, she spoke from the steps of the courthouse where Victor had been tried. "I want to thank everyone who believed in me and supported the truth," Elena said. "I also want to assure the people of Starlight Bay that our foundation's mission remains strong. We will continue to invest in education, healthcare, and sustainability initiatives to uplift our community." A round of applause rose from the crowd. Behind the cameras, Clara and Thomas nodded in approval. They could see the spark in Elena's eyes. This was no longer the naive billionaire who trusted blindly. This was a resilient survivor, determined to make a difference and stand as a beacon of hope for others who faced betrayal or abandonment. The memory of Victor's deception lingered only as a cautionary tale. The battered remains of Elena's once trusting heart had healed into something stronger. Whenever she felt doubt or pain, she reminded herself that she had overcome the worst betrayal. And so, the story of Elena Harper became legendary in Starlight Bay, the billionaire who nearly drowned in the ocean at her husband's hand, only to rise again, stronger than ever. Though the waves had threatened to swallow her, she emerged not as a victim, but as a powerful force for change, proving that true wealth lies in one's determination to do good. Thanks for watching. If you find this story interesting, hit the subscription button and turn on the notification bell for our next stories. Don't forget to like and share this video with others. See you in our next story.